Well, hello and welcome to week 2 of Liturgy and Pentecostal Ministry. This week we'll be talking about Pentecostal spirituality, a very important subject. But before we get into our brief discussions on the two books that we're reading, Tomlinson's Pentecostal Sacraments and Smith's You Are What You Love, I would like to just talk a little bit about your assignments and your posts. First of all, thank you all for sending me your introductory papers. I will be reading those and getting them graded and back to you hopefully by Monday or Tuesday. Um, and just making notes. Of course, if you turned it in, you've got an A, but I am going to grade them just for grammar and such. And then I would like to make a comment about the cover pages. Some of you didn't use the template I asked you to use, and I'll mark that. Of course, there's no marking off, but for your final paper, you're going to want to use that template just the way I have it. No borders, no lines, no bold face, simply the way I have that template on the syllabus page. And if you don't know where that is, if you haven't found that yet, let me know, and I'll try to point you to that. Some of you have asked questions about the Turabian uh, style of writing. I appreciate that, and I hope the comments that I've responded to have been helpful. We'll talk about that throughout this course, but if you haven't taken a writing course, you're going to want to get Kate Turabian's latest addition to her book. That'll be something that will not be wasted because it'll be a resource that you'll use all through your seminary experience. And so you're going to want to get the latest addition to that. And I would just suggest taking a writing course as soon as possible. For me, the Turabian style will mostly be focusing on the way you put footnotes in your paper and the way that you have your last page, the bibliography cited. And so if you don't know what I'm looking for or Turabian style, I would suggest looking that up. Look at my paper. I put my doctoral thesis on the syllabus page. You can see how I footnoted the various sources, and that's basically the way you're going to want to do that. Just a brief comment on your discussions this week. You did good. Appreciate that. If you can this week, try to get that first post in by late Wednesday, early Thursday at the latest, so other students can have a chance to respond. You did well. The way you engaged the text, giving me the quotes, offering the questions, and then summarizing. Did a good job on that. I would like to see some of you stick to the course material. Try not to ask questions or respond to things kind of outside the scope of this course, worship, liturgy, and formation. Try to keep the discussion in that, and that would be helpful. But other than that, you all did a good job, and I appreciate that. I would like you to make a comment on both the texts, though. Some of you only commented on Dan's book. Most of you commented on both, but I would like to see some comments on both texts so I know that you're reading both texts. That's just the only really way I can know that you're reading, and so do that, and that would be great. If you have any questions on any of the assignments, let me know. Don't forget that there is the extra credit assignment that will be coming due, and you'll want to get that into me. It's simply going to Atla, looking up those two articles, and giving me the citations, the footnote citation and the bibliography citation. There's two for each. Get those to me, and I'll look at those and give you the extra credit. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. All right, Pentecostal spirituality out of Dan's book. This is such an important topic. I mean, everybody has a spirituality, even atheists. At times they have their doubts, but in all fairness, atheists have a view of God. It's negative, but it's there. but we all do. Agnostics, people of other faith, Christians, and there are various levels of spirituality. There are various degrees. There are spiritualities that kind of define what perhaps a Roman Catholic would kind of believe, what a Baptist person might believe, Methodist. But there's also a Pentecostal spirituality. I mean, there are distinctives that we have. I mean, Pentecostalism isn't just kind of Baptist or Reformed theology with the experience of baptism of the Holy Spirit and speaking in tongues kind of tagged on. No, there's a way of us of being. There's a way of us of reading. There's our Pentecostal hermeneutic. There is this understanding that we believe in the dynamics of the Holy Spirit and God working in us and God working on our affections. And so the discussion that Dan offers is comprehensive. It's good. I have some critiques on it myself, and I'll mention that just a little bit. But one of the aspects of Dan's book and what makes it, I think, so important to us is the way that he goes back into the ancient literature. He goes back to the church fathers and draws wisdom from these ancient writings. And I think that's important for us. Sometimes we think that, we don't need the past, or sometimes we think that, the past is dead, or that's just, whatever. But, we are here because of our past. There has been a progression. And I think what you'll see throughout Dan's book is how he draws the wisdom from the past, and I think that's so important, and that's one of the really strong aspects of Dan's book. And so I hope you'll engage that and comment on that as we go through the various chapters. Smith's book, chapter 2. This kind of lines up with what we're talking about, and he's going deeper, defining what liturgy is for him, and identifying the challenge that we have of that there are certain affections, there are certain wants and drives in our life that are just antithetical to the Christian walk. And so he challenges us to identify those and to ask questions why, and how can Christian liturgies, how can a more committed way of embracing some of the ancient liturgies of the past help us form these inordinate affections. And I just love the way he goes into some of these movies and kind of draws out some of the aspects of these forms of art. But also, he's going to go deeper into this idea that, we aren't just thinking beings, we are desiring beings. And again, how his definition of liturgy really helps us appreciate that. And then what do you think about his whole discussion on cultural liturgies, right? These liturgies that we might find on a university campus or at the mall or even in some of our government buildings, the way that we build our structures. They're almost like religious structures, right? I think he's onto something. And I think it's important not for us to be kind of against all these things. No, this is part of our life. It's part of our culture. But it's important for us to identify those things that are pulling on our heartstrings, and that for good or for bad. I mean, we all have to go to the mall and purchase our clothes, or we all have to go, to school, or we all have to be involved with government. But we have to be able to identify the ways that perhaps the cultural liturgies pull us away from perhaps our allegiance or our call to follow Christ. And I really like what he does here in chapter 2, and I'm looking forward to y'all's comments on that. The resource I have to offer you today is probably one of the most important books written for Pentecostals, and that might be an overstatement, but let me just say this is a very important resource, and this is Steve Land's Pentecostal Spirituality. This was his doctoral thesis, and then he put it into print. It's been printed several times. It has been engaged. It has been kind of critiqued. it has been used over and over again to kind of enhance our discussion on what it means to be Pentecostal. One of the most important books you might have in your library as you go through the seminary at PTS. Of course, I mean, Dr. Land was the president of the seminary at one point, at one point in some class, perhaps in most of your classes, in many of your classes, you will engage this text. And one thing that really concerns me about Dan's book, and especially his chapter on spirituality, Pentecostal spirituality, that he doesn't engage Steve Land, and that is very odd to me. That might be my greatest critique of Dan's book, and I would really like to push back on him. And although he lives here in Cleveland, where I live, I really haven't talked to him about that. I think the next time we meet, I think I'm going to ask him about that. Why didn't you engage Dr. Land? Such an important book, such an important personality in in our context, in our seminary context, in the Church of God. And so I just highly recommend Steve's book. And I guarantee that if you stay in the seminary, you will have to have this book as one of your texts for one of your classes. So you might as well go ahead and go get it now. All right. Um, I hope you have a good week. Again, if you have any challenges with any of the assignments, any questions, especially about Turabian, if you have questions about Atla, please, Atla is going to be your friend. You're going to want to get your resources for your papers from Atla. And I'll talk more about that next week. But just for now, let me just say that try to get your an idea of what you might want to write on. Thumb through the two textbooks, especially Daniel's book. Maybe you'll want to write on baptism, or maybe you want to write on foot washing or communion, whatever. Try to get me that topic as soon as you can, so you can start your research. I don't want you to start doing research and then you're saying, "Hey, this is what I'm going to write." I'm saying, "No, that's just not going to fly." So, anyways, give me those topics, and that'll be great. Hey, I hope you have a good week. Looking forward to your discussions online, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.